Seriously, if you're doing this as a technician to your customers, you don't deserve to be in business. Pack up the tools, go and get a 9 to 5. Oh wow. Oh wow, this gets better and better. That's not a good condition charger port at all. They have not cleaned up the board. Oh man. Good lord, what have they done? This is going to be part number 2 in the Nintendo Switch saga that I dealt with yesterday. And if you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend checking that one out before you watch this one. I am about to spoil, obviously, the result of that video, but this is going to be part number 2. So, in yesterday's video, I attempted to repair a Nintendo Switch. The issues that the Switch was having was that it had been to another repair shop and it got basically completely destroyed. So I spoke to the customer about it and I attempted to repair on the USB circuit. I managed to get it to dock on the dock on this thing just here, but I didn't manage to get it to connect to the computer. And the problem with that is that it's a V1 switch, and the console was being used as an exploited console. So the issue with not being able to connect to the computer is that the customer couldn't inject the payload when he needed to. So I ran through the options with the customer, and there was a couple of options really. Number one was to obviously use it just as a standard switch, you know, just use it in normal mode on the stock firmware and stuff like that. And that's obviously something he didn't really want to do because he only bought this switch because it was an exploitable switch and he wanted to run custom firmware on it. What he does with it is none of my business. I don't care. And yeah, I really couldn't give a damn about that. But the other option was to basically install a mod chip. So the mod chip is a RP2040, I think. And yeah, these things here, I've got them inside this box here. What are they? Yeah, PicoFly RP2040. So that was the other option, and the reason that we can go down the mod chip route in this is actually because it doesn't need a computer to connect to it. So when you have the PicoFly, when you have this mod chip installed, it uses the PicoFly to put it into RCM mode and do all of the stuff, right? It basically makes it so as it can boot without having to inject a payload every time. I don't really know the finer details because I'm not that much into modding and stuff, but I do know that when one of these is installed, it doesn't need to be connected to the computer. And for that reason, we can go ahead and install one on this already exploitable Nintendo Switch, and that should solve the issues and allow the customer to go forward with, you know, using it as an exploitable switch. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video today. So with that being said, my name is Hakko, I'm an electronics technician. I mainly work on games consoles, but I do work on other stuff as well. So if that's the sort of stuff you're into, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications. That way you don't miss any future videos. If you need to organise a repair, you can get in touch at thecoder.repair. And if you need any parts and supplies for your repair, you can buy those on my online store, consolefix.shop, where I strip down faulty motherboards and sell the individual components. And they're always basically genuine components. I do all the tests and stuff like that. Yeah, I'll just sell the parts because I'm greedy and I want your money. But anyway, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay, so I have the Nintendo Switch just here, and this is the motherboard. And like I said, the issue with this, it does connect on the dock, it does charge, it works absolutely fine as a normal switch. But whenever you plug it into the computer, it comes up USB device not recognized, and for that reason, it can't be exploited. But this is an exploitable switch. The issue that I found with this, or what I think I found with this, I could be completely wrong in my initial diagnosis, and it could be something that I just can't figure out. You know, I'm not a genius at the end of the day. I know a bit about these. Well, I know quite a bit about these, but I don't know everything, right? But from what I worked out, the two USB data lines that come through here, they go through the board and they go up to this point here just by the audio IC, and then from there, if you follow those traces, they go directly into the CPU. So what I think has happened with this is the charging port got damaged, and then once the customer plugged in a charging port without a charging cable without realizing, it's blown the USB data lines on the CPU. I do get full continuity from the USB port to the CPU, but I think it's actually blown it on the CPU itself, so it's killed that part of the CPU, right? So that's what I think has happened with this. I could be wrong, like I said, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, that's basically what I've put it down to. I can't figure out anything else, and the only place that this USB data line goes to is directly to the back of the CPU just here. Well, it goes into the CPU, but it runs on these traces here and goes to the CPU, right? So yeah, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be installing a mod chip on this. This is the PicoFly, the RP2040, and I do offer these installations as a service, so I will do this job for you. So basically, this job in particular, I was originally going to be charging £50 for a charger port. It had a new charger port. I've left the new charger port on there because it was damaged. It was in need of replacement. But unfortunately, because that didn't fix the issue, it was basically being sent back to the customer as pretty much a no fix. It would have been working as a normal switch, but I wouldn't have charged the customer other than my £20 bench fee, right? So basically what I've said to the customer, I typically charge £70 for a mod chip install on the standard Nintendo Switch. So what I've said to my customer is, obviously I've still got to make some money and stuff like that, so I'm going to charge the £20 no fix fee, and then I'm going to treat this as a fresh job and install a mod chip. And I charge £70 for that on the normal Nintendo Switch. I charge £70 on the Switch and Switch Lite, and I charge £90 on the OLED because it's a little bit more involved and it's a more expensive device, risks are higher and all of that sort of stuff. So £70 plus the £20 no fix fee, so I'm charging this customer £90 for this job, which, I mean, I think is still reasonable, because if the customer was to go out and buy a V1 board, he's still going to be looking at more than that. And not only that, he is also going to be having to, you know, restart all of his game saves and stuff like that. I mean, there is a way you can transfer him, but I don't know how to do that because, like I said, I don't get that involved in mod chip installs. But yeah, you can go out and find a working board, but you're going to be paying more. I think you're going to be paying probably around about £140 for a working board these days as a V1 board in, you know, well, usable condition, in mint condition. So because this has had a charging port on it, it's basically been refurbished, right? So to get a refurbished board, you're probably going to pay about £140 just because of, you know, being exploitable and not having to install a mod chip and all of that stuff. But personally, I think installing a mod chip is a lot better in this because, well, number one, you don't have to keep on injecting payloads and stuff, and number two is, well, actually that's the only reason, I think, you just don't have to inject payloads every time. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing anyway. I'm going to be installing this mod chip, and hopefully that's going to fix this issue and get this console working back as it was before with the modded firmware. Fingers crossed. Let's go under the microscope. So as you can see, this is a HAC CPU 10, and obviously that is the exploitable version. Well, not obviously, because some of the hack 10s wasn't, but this one is. So the customer's told me that he was using it with Atmosphere, and he sent me the link to the version of Atmosphere he was using and all of that sort of stuff. So what I can do is I can just install this mod chip, and I don't know if it's going to work right off the bat, but if I do have to factory reset it and stuff, at least I should be able to get to his emunand and be able to run it, you know, run his emunand on it. Worst case scenario, yes, I'd just have to do a fresh install of the software and stuff, but that's fine. It doesn't matter as long as it's working as a modded switch. You know, I can definitely get to his game saves. I don't know if I can get to the games. I don't know if he's going to have to re-download those or not, but we're going to try our best here to get this back to how it was. I do want to clear something up because I have spoken to the person who did the initial repair on this. So I want to, while I'm doing this, while I'm cleaning all of this up and stuff, let me just clear a couple of things up. So the history behind this is this was sent to a local person, to a local repair person. And it's not a shop, it's actually a one-man band, same as me, right? Works from home and all of that sort of stuff, right? So apparently, the device was sent to him because it wasn't connected on the computer, and he's changed the charging port and then just given it back to the customer without testing. This is what the customers told me. Now, the person who spoke to me said he didn't charge him, but then the customer's saying that he charged him £45 and had to refund it. So I don't know what to believe, because I actually know the person who did this, and Honestly, melting a port isn't like that person. But that being said, we all have bad days. But what this person has also said, and I can't, name anyone because I don't have proof of exactly what happened here. It's the customer's word against the technician's word, and I can't just believe one person. I have to stay impartial, really. My job is just to fix the mess. So the person who's worked on this has basically said that he refunded the customer, but he... so afterwards he said he's refunded the customer, but he put the original charging port back on. And regardless of whether I know this person or not, I don't agree with that. These ports don't cost enough to justify that. And not only that, if you put a bad charging port back on this and this customer does decide, okay, let's just use it as a normal switch. Let's forget the exploitable things. Let's use it as a normal switch. Plugged it in and boom. Yeah, there you go. And then all of a sudden now you've got a blown CPU because, well, you've put a bad charge port on there and it's shorted out the power and data lines going to the CPU, which is actually what's happened here. But it did go to this other repair person because it wasn't connecting to a computer. That is something I do know. That's something that the customers told me directly. So the issue was it was charging, but it wasn't connecting to the computer and it wasn't docking. And when he's got it back, it basically still wasn't docking, but it wasn't connecting to the computer either, which was the main fault. I've got it to dock just by changing the port, so I don't know what to think here, really. I don't know, was this person having a bad day and just didn't install the port right, but obviously just didn't get to the bottom of the original fault and didn't test it, or I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, because I honestly don't know. But either way, I cannot and will not excuse leaving the board in the condition that this was in, because there's just no excuse for that. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're my mother, for God's sake. There's no excuse in leaving the board in that condition. It takes minutes to clean up. Minutes. And this is the condition that I left the board in, and this is the condition I would have left the board in if it had gone back as a no fix. This is exactly how it would have gone back. Well, with the shield on, obviously. But it would have gone back like that. Mint condition, no flux on the board, no used charge port and stuff like that. It's basically as best a job as I can do. I'm doing it to the best of my ability. And well, that's probably not the best I can do, but it's a mighty fine job, right? And that's the main thing here, is just to do things to the best of your abilities with the tools that you've got and the information you've got and all of that sort of stuff. And interestingly, this capacitor right here is slightly burnt. Not to the point where it's going to be short, but it's slightly burnt. Is that capacitor for the USB? I don't know. That's not going to be the cause of this. It's not going to be the direct cause of it not connecting through USB, but there is a burnt capacitor there. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to connect up the ribbon cable for the CPU. So we've got a flex cable here which comes with the mod chips, and I do not sell the mod chips, by the way, so don't ask. I don't sell them and I won't sell them. I'm not going to be providing them at all. But we're going to take this flex cable and I'm going to try and get this threaded through so as it sits properly. There we are. So it just gets a little bit awkward just to get that to sit properly. And this says OLED, but it will work, it's fine. So we're going to line this up so as it's in line with the capacitors on the CPU. I'm going to sit it underneath the shield here, but we're going to line this up. Come on, sit under there. Thank you. Yep, we're going to line this up so as it's sitting with the capacitors. And oh damn, I've just realised we can't. Oh shoot, it's a different CPU. Oh, that sucks. It's a completely different CPU, isn't it? So if we look on this one here, we're supposed to have two caps at the side, and we don't have them here. Damn. So I'm wondering if it's these two just here, but I'm going to have to do a little bit of research here. Yeah, so I've just checked, and it is indeed these two here for this one. So I'm going to have to just figure something out here, really. let's just remove these two capacitors from here quickly. I think I'm just going to need to jumper wire it. I don't have the flex cable for the V1 boards. I actually ordered flex cables for the V1 boards and they never came, so I'm going to have to run wires. So what I'm going to have to do here, ignore this stuff that's coming out of here, it's just IPA, it's fine. So preheat that. So it's that one and that one. So I'm just removing the caps from the board, well, from the CPU. I'm going to take this. I'm going to cut that. Okay, so that's cut, and I'm going to fix this there. Okay, I'm going to fix that right there. Good, so that's fixed in place. And now, which one is ground here? That one's ground, the right one is ground, and then this one here is the input side. I'm going to take this. So there's my input side of this. I'm going to run that to there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to order some flex cables, and I'm going to say to the customer, bring me this back once the flex cables come, and I'll redo it, and I'll install it with a proper flex cable, one that's designed for the V1 switch, right? And the reason for that is because I don't want to leave it like this, but at least this way it'll get him a working switch while I'm waiting for him to come. It means he hasn't got to sit there and wait, you know, 3 weeks or whatever for the flex cables to turn up, and then I'll do it with the proper flex cable and stuff. Well, that's the plan anyway. So this is going to be a temporary solution while I wait for a V1 flex cable. Unfortunately, that is going to be the best thing I can do right now. So this wire, so that wire to ground, and there we are. So I've connected up the data line there, and yes, that doesn't look great, I get that, I understand it, it's fine, but you know, it's going to be a temporary solution. I'm not going to do this as a permanent fix. I'm doing it now because I don't have the correct flex cable to use. You only need one of these lines, but when I do get the correct flex cable, I'll basically redo this with all of the proper lines and stuff, and I'll, you know, put capacitors back on and all of that sort of stuff. But for now, this should be sufficient. But no, it is not, in a perfect world, the ideal solution, okay? Don't recommend you do this unless you have to. This is just using what's available to me at the time to give him a working switch today. Okay. Okay, next step is going to be to just grab my eMMC. And oh wow. Oh, that's a little bit rough. Alright. Didn't expect that. Okay, so let's clean that up. And then I've got a flex cable which I need to install. Yes, I've just pulled this flex cable off my own switch, because I don't have another one. But I just need to install this flex cable and just solder all these points. I'm just going to run the iron over this and just solder all these wires on. This seems to be incredibly oxidized. to be honest. It should be taking the solder and it's not. I mean, it is on some pads, but not others. Okay. So I managed to tin that. Right, so looks like I might have a damaged pad or two here. So I'm going to order some new flex cables, but I'm just working with what I've got here. So I'll just restore that connection because the trace is damaged. I'll do a quick jumper. Yep, there we go. And now in theory that should all be connected up. So let's see if this glitches. 2 quick pulses. Reset not connected. Yeah, I think that's definitely damaged. Okay. So I'm just going to put a jumper wire from this other one because that one I've just that one's damaged as well. It's fine, you know, as long as this works temporarily for a couple of weeks, just while I wait for new ones to come. So I'm gonna need 2 new flex cables. I'm gonna need the CPU and the NAND flex cable for this. But as long as I can get it working temporarily for the customer, you know, even if it's just for a couple of weeks. And that's all that matters, right? So there's that one. That's done. Okay, there we go. So we've got a connection there. So I'm just going to tuck that in there. Just tuck that over there, that's fine. That'll keep it nice and safe. I'll solder this one here. There we are. And then we're good to go. So we've got the jumper wire. That's all in position. Alright, so let's just connect these to the B point here. There we are. So that's the B point. I believe that's in the correct place. One long, one short. D0 not connected. What? Right, so, I mean, supposedly, the rest of these points, in theory, should be connected, right? But apparently they're not. Strange, because they was connected before. Okay. So I had everything apart from that reset line before, and now the reset line is there, but everything else is gone. Alright, let's try that. One long, one short. D0 not connected. Okay, connect up D0 as a jumper wire then instead. Right, so there's that one. Now let's see if we get another error. Okay. Well, now we're glitching, I think. It looks like we're glitching. Yep, I believe we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect up to the LCD, and in theory we should get the ability to boot from the SD card for Hecate. Okay. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, it's done. It's glitched. There. Yeah, I was going to connect up my SD card, but no, that's glitched. Right, let me just check this. So, this is the customer's SD card. I'm going to connect this up. Right, so SD card's in. Hecate, there we go. Old Nix GUI found. There will be dragoned. Update the bootloader folder. Press any key. And there we go. We have Hecate without having to connect it to the computer. Right, so if we go now to options and we set auto boot to on into the custom firmware for the MUMMC. Save the configuration. And then we power this off. So that's powered off now. And in theory now this should boot straight into the MUMMC, the MUNAND. Assuming there is an MUNAND. If not, we can just press the volume down button. MUMMC is forced but not enabled. Press any key, blah blah blah. Okay, so we don't have an MUNAND. So launch custom firmware MUMMC. Yeah, okay, so it doesn't have an MUNAND. Right, okay. So what we need to do then is we need to go to Hecate again. Cancel that. And we're going to go to options, auto boot into custom firmware for sysMMC. Save. Okay. Power off. And then we're going to power it back on, like so. Straight into Atmosphere. And this should have all of the customer's data intact. Boom. There we go. Beautiful. That is a sight to see, isn't it? So what we can also do if we wanted to go into the stock firmware, so let's say for example I want to play online, we go power it off. So we just power it off as normal, but I just plug that in to do it quicker. I unplugged it to do it quicker. Press and hold the volume down button. That will launch into Hecate. And yes, this has an old version of Hecate, but that's fine. But then we can just launch semi-stock, right? And that'll launch then into the stock firmware, and basically it'll just work as it normally does. So that's the stock firmware. We can power it off. So if we restart this now, it should reboot straight into Atmosphere because we've got auto boot enabled. No jig. No USB, you know, not having to connect it up to the PC to inject the payload. The payload's already there. It's on the NAND. It's on the mod chip. It's all there and it's ready to go, and that is working. So I do want to point a couple of things out here. Number one, obviously this all needs putting back together. So I'm going to get that done. I'm going to clean everything up. I'm going to clean up any flux. I'm going to make sure that it's all nice and hunky-dory. And it's all going to be ready to go, right? So that's the first thing to clear up, that this isn't obviously going to go back to the customer like this. This is just because this video has been going on for a while. Number two, and the most important thing is, yes, I have kind of bodged this together to bodge the, you know, to actually get this mod chip installed, because I don't have any flex cables for the V1 switch. You can get them, but I don't have any right now. I also don't have any NAND flex cable, so I had to take the one that I had off my own Nintendo Switch, just temporarily, just so as I could obviously get this working for the customer. I'm going to order both the NAND flex cables and the CPU flex cables, and then I'm going to have the customer drop this back off, or I'll go and collect it from him because he's not far from me. I'll go and collect it from him, and I'll get this job done properly. This will not stay like this. It'll only stay like this temporarily until I get the flex cables. I'm sure the customer is going to be, prefer that over not having a switch for 2 weeks while I wait for the flex cables to arrive. I'll make sure it's all safe. I'll make sure nothing's going to go wrong. All of this, all of this mod chip and stuff will be encased in insulation tape and things like that, and I'll make sure that nothing's going to short out. But temporarily it's got a few jumper wires, which is how people was doing it before these chips came out anyway. People were running jumper wires all over the board and stuff, and it's absolutely fine to do, but it's not something I want to do as a long-term solution. I just want to do this as a temporary solution so as the customer can get it back today working, and then once he's got it back working, I'll order these mod flexes and I'll do the job 100% properly. So yeah, it's not going to stay like this. That is not how I do things. This is just a temporary solution to fix the issue that we had, which was not connecting to the computer, which meant that a payload couldn't be injected. So yeah, that just about wraps it up. I probably won't do a part 3 on installing the mod cables, the flex cables for this. This will probably be the last video for this particular switch. But the main thing is I've got it working, and the customer can obviously use it as he used it before the charge port broke. It's got a brand new charge port. It's got a mod chip installed. It's got auto boot enabled, which means it can go straight into atmosphere, and it can go straight to using it exactly as it was before it broke. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. I'll always do my best to answer. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications for more. And if you do want to organise a repair or anything else, get in touch at thecoder.repair, and I also sell parts and supplies for games console repairs at consolefix.shop. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm so glad that I could get this working, and that I did manage to conjure up a solution for this and get around that the USB issue on it. So yeah, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Take care everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.